Right guys, so here we are. It's another day, it's another Tuesday, so that means our mobility live today. So make sure you have some floor space, grab a mat if you can, and even go barefoot. You'll feel a lot more comfortable in that position, or sorry, wearing no shoes, and you get a lot more movement through that and more feel through it. And that's what we're looking for, is that feel, and see how we react to certain movements. So we're gonna start sitting on our bum, and this is going to be an unusual. We're not starting with our legs 90-90 like our usual one. And yes, I'm probably going to get judged for the socks I'm wearing here, the invisible ones. But sure, look. Anyway, so we're going to go into a roll out into V-sit. So as we roll, we're going to roll back. So we're tucking our knees into our chest. We're rolling back onto our back. And as we come forward, use that momentum to put your legs into a V. And now from there, we're reaching out in front with our hands. You're going to feel a stretch at the back of the hamstrings. And then we're going to rock back again, tuck the knees in. Make sure you have enough space overhead. You don't want to hit in the head against a wall. And then you're going to pull in again. So that's the roll into a V-sit. And make sure you can point those toes, because if you point those toes back towards you, well, now you're going to start feeling a little bit in the calf. But you will mostly feel this in the hamstring. So we're going to go for 10 reps here. Reach as far as you can with the hands. Take your time. You will move around a little bit on the mat. That's all right. And then you can kind of play around with the different shapes or different sizes of the V. You can go a little bit wider. As you come forward, as you roll back, you can come a little bit narrower. I feel the difference of where it hits the hamstrings. So we're looking for you to actually feel the difference yourself. Because this is what mobility is. Mobility is all about that feel and what you react, or how you react to certain positions, and where you feel this compared to a slightly different angle, and what's the difference in that. So now that we've set up that angle of now we're sitting on our bum, we have that legs in a V shape. So V shape is the common theme today, but you want to be in about a 45-degree angle with your legs. So from there, hands behind, because we're opening up the hips just to start, and we can start making it a little bit more challenging as we go. Is we're going to drop one leg in. Very similar to our legs 90-90. You drop one leg in, keep one leg still, and pick it back up, then swap it over. And now you're going to see the differences between right and left of dropping that knee in. So nice and slow. We're going to go 10 each side. But as you put one knee in, make sure that leg doesn't go out with it. Keep it nice and tight. And then let's swap it over. And if you find that quite easy and you're getting the knee all the way to the ground without that other leg moving, well, then you can bring your heels back a little bit, walk your hands in underneath your bum, and let's go from there. So we're just tightening up the angle, compressing everything in the hip. So you're dropping the knee down. This is all internal rotation here. So you will see the differences between right and left, if you have any. I'll be amazed if no one does. It's possible, but it's unlikely. Everyone always has that one side that's better than the other. So once you get through our 10, we're going to go into our legs 90-90. So now we can start opening the legs to one side, and we're left in this legs 90-90 where we have both legs in that 90-degree position behind the knees. So it's a right angle behind the knee, and make sure it's directly in front of this hip for this front leg. We're going to look at the back leg, which is in internal rotation now, but we're going to try to bring it to external by keeping this foot down. So it's something different we don't usually do, and then we're going to pick up that knee. So you're going to feel it all in the groin. You're going to feel the outside the hip as well, the actual joint working itself, and then back down. But take your time with this one. Each one you'll probably get a little bit further, or you should get a little bit further. So now we're bringing that external rotation into it from the internal. So take your time. You got to control this leg all the way back down. So don't let it just flop down. We want to control it as you bring it up. Nice and slow, bring it down. Trying to keep this other knee down. Don't let this knee pop up, because it's quite easy when we lift this back knee just to kind of compensate for that. And you go, oh look, I've opened up this much. It's not the case. Put this other leg down. Now try it. Even hold it down with a hand. So you're rotating in towards that front leg a little bit more. Now try it and see the difference. Big difference. So make sure we're not compensating through other parts of the body. So now that's about 10 done. It's difficult to count while you're actually talking at the same time. So same again, setting up that legs 90-90 pose. This front hip, or this front knee is in front of that front hip. Now we're opening up from there. So 10 reps on this side. Now we can already see on my side, or for me, my left side's a little bit better in external rotation. Whereas the internal rotation is better on the right side. So you'll have those little things. Certain movements are going to be better on the other side of the body. So picking that knee up, opening up as much as you can. You're trying to get that knee to the back wall or out to the side. But don't let this knee pop up. You got to be strict to that one. We also don't want you leaning and then trying to readjust and open up towards that side again. Stay shut off from it. Force it to open up away from you. All right, so now that we have 10 reps on both sides done, hips are going to feel a little bit tired. They've done a good bit of work already. We're going to go into our back into hamstring flossing. So hamstring flossing is where we clamp part of the hamstring with the heel of our hands. So we're going to interlock our fingers. Our clamp is now the heel of our hands, all right? So we're going to put those together. But in the meantime, or during the exercise, we're actually going to pinch our hamstring. So I'm going to keep my left leg down. Keep it straight on the ground. I don't want that left leg coming up. I want it glued to the floor, keeping it nice and straight. So this leg has to stretch a little bit more. So what we're going to do, interlock the fingers behind that leg, where the hamstring is. I want to dig in with the heel of my hand, keeping the top leg bent. I'm going to extend that leg, keeping that clamp on, right to the top. I'm going to release my hand, reset the leg, bring it back down, do it again. So we're going to have 10 of these each side. Now you might find that one spot is quite tender. That's fine, you can actually attack that spot and keep going after it. Or you can find a new spot and try and move it all around. The idea behind this one is pinching one part of the hamstring, which forces that hand and up to the back of the knee to stretch, while the hand from the glute or to the glute is actually limited with the stretching. Now it's still going to stretch because our hand isn't going to shut it off completely. You can actually feel the hamstrings, the three muscles there, moving in your hand as you extend that leg. But don't release until you've actually fully extended that leg, and then bring it back down. Once you get through 10, we're going to swap it over. Right leg now glued to the floor, swapping it over. Other leg coming up, clamp it, lock it out. Yeah, left one's a little bit tighter. A few reps will loosen it out. I'll feel a lot freer. So take your time. Nothing in this is supposed to be done fast. If you're doing it fast, you're doing it wrong. That's the blunt way of putting it. Because everyone goes, oh yeah, I don't want to go slow, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Well, you're not going to get the same feedback. We're looking to feel everything, and you can't feel everything if you go fast. And trust me, no matter how many times you say go slow, it's not always the case. So just really, really make an effort to break everything down. Take 3 seconds with one part of a movement, then 3 seconds with the other part of that movement. And last one. And then we're going to rock forward. So now what we're going to do is set up into the pigeon stretch. And as we know, or if you don't know, pigeon stretch is there to target our glutes. So what I want to do is get you onto your two knees. So we're actually quite upright. So from our knee to our shoulders is a straight line. So from there, I'm going to take my right leg. And put it in front of my left knee. So it's actually coming across the body. You can use a wall if you have a chair there on standby. Use that. That's going to make things a lot easier. So right foot straight in front of that left knee. Now what I'm going to do is take my two hands, going to put them outside my right leg, because that's the position where we're going to move. So outside the right hand of the hand. There's a lot of rights and lefts here. So I'm going to reset, do it all again. So right foot in front of the left knee, going to take my two hands, put it across the body, over that front leg. And from here, we're going to drop that right knee out towards the hands, trying to keep that knee the same level as that foot or that ankle. We don't want to end up in that figure 7 position. We want that straight line across. And from there, you're going to adjust that back leg and you're going to drop down. Now, bear in mind, when we have this position of this foot nice and high, you mightn't get that knee all the way down. That's fine. Grab a block, grab a pillow, throw it under that knee so you actually bring the ground up towards you. Either way, you should feel that. We're dropping the hips, keep the chest up. And we're just going to hold that for a bit. So it can be quite intense. Hands may get tired, shoulders may get tired. And then we're going to pull up out of that. So we're going to swap it over. Quickly set up that left side. So left foot in front of that right knee. Hands are going to come out to the left hand side. And adjust that back leg and drop it down. Keeping that height in the foot. You can actually pick it up with your hand if you're able to and drop it back down just to reset if you do lose that position. And what we're going to do here is hold for about 10 seconds. We're actually going to take a dynamic attack to it or target approach to it. And then we're going to swap it. And then we're going to go again. And then you'll get in the position where you're actually able to set this up quite quickly. So we're not looking to hold it for about 60 seconds or 2 minutes. We're actually looking at to warm up the legs at the same time. Because the more heat we have in the legs, the easier it is to move. Hence why we do a warm-up. So with the warm-up, you're warming up the body, you're warming up the joints, getting that blood flowing. It makes everything so much easier to move. So I don't know if you've ever tried squatting with the bar straight off the bat without doing a warm-up. And then if you compare that to doing HIIT mobility and a bit of movement beforehand and then get underneath the bar, it's a huge difference. You actually have a bit more power in your squats. So I'll quickly set it up, foot across. So we're going for about 5 each side. So it does take up a bit of time. But as I said, this will set you up perfectly for a session if you are going to do a session or if you're going to go for a run or do anything. Even if you're not doing anything after. This will make a huge difference. Now we are staying away from the shoulders today, as my shoulders, both of them, aren't in good condition. They're out of action now for the next while, but we'll see how we go. So it's all hips today, everything from the hips down. And let's swap it over one last time each side. Well, this is going to be my 5th on the right. Still have to do my left. And last swap over. Easiest way to do it is actually get back up into that standing position on the knees. So knee to shoulders is a straight line and then swap it from there. And the more you try and actually push your hips forward and get your chest up, you're going to feel this glute a little bit more. It's going to be a bit more intense, but only do that if you can get into that position and then come up out of that. So from there, just give it a second. We're going to go into a hip flexor stretch. Next time, I'm just going to stand up, loosen out the hips for a little bit. Then I'm going to be back down onto my 2 knees again. So from this one, we can actually keep one knee on the ground. We're going to put one foot out in front, very similar to the pigeon stretch setup. Sorry, but not this time. We're not bringing that leg across. That leg is coming straight out in front. I'm going to take my 2 hands. I'm going to put it outside this front foot and outside this back leg. So you're pretty much like a tram tracks here. Hands are outside the tram tracks, legs are inside the tram tracks. From here, we're keeping that back knee down. What I want to do is bring my hips forward and up. It's like I'm scooping them to the wall in front, little arc up towards the roof, and that's the motion we're looking for. So the way you can also do this is once you're there in that position, and say you don't actually feel that stretch just yet, because that can be an issue with the hip flexor, I want you to squeeze that back glute. So the glute of that trail leg, I want you to squeeze that. Still following that same movement of trying to get the hips up to the sky. So what happens when we squeeze the glute of the back leg is those muscles, the hip flexor and glute, tend to work together. And they always do the opposite. It's like the lower back. It's exactly like the lower back and the abs. I was about to say the whole back. No, it's the lower back and the abs. So if that back arches or you arch to that lower back, you can't squeeze your abs. Now, but if you round it, you can squeeze the abs, but you can't arch that lower back. So that's the same thing. Only one can stretch at a time. One can contract at any given time. Same with the glute and hip flexor. And let's swap it over. So we're going to do a few of these on each side. Squeezing that back glute. Scooping up towards the sky. So it can be a bit of a relaxing one as well. So let's just hold that for a little bit longer. And let's swap it over. A bit of adjusting. But make sure you're squeezing that glute again. And then we're going to look at the groins after on this one, on the next one. So we're back to sitting on our bum. And we're going to bring in another system or training way of pails and rails. So you may have heard of it before, you may not have. It's just another stretching technique to increase that range of motion. And we're going to try it today. So we're just going to go 3 each side, keeping the volume down on this one. Going to finish off my last side here. And then let's rock it back. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the butterfly stretch. And you're probably like, what the hell is a butterfly stretch? Once you see it, you'll know it. So is a stretch we used to do when they're kids. So soles of your feet together. Now bear in mind, you might only get your knees to here. If you can get your knees a little bit wider, absolutely fantastic, but get to the point where you can relax. Now you can anchor onto your feet, because if you don't have that flexibility, that range of motion through your hips, you'll actually lean back. So you can do it against the wall and stop you leaning back or falling back. But I'm going to hold my feet here. All right, so I'm in this position. Soles my feet together, knees out nice and wide. So now we're in external rotation. You're going to feel a little stretch on your groins. A little bit on the adductors here. So what we're going to do is place our elbows just inside our knees. You can grab your ankles from here. So you're still holding on to something holding you forward. And what it is we're going to start just pushing down gently on our elbows through to our knees. So we got a little bit of a stretch. I'm going to start the clock now. And we're going to go for 2 minutes of a stretch. And we're just going to hold it. All right, so nothing more. You're actually putting no effort into it. You're relaxing. It's a passive hold. We're not trying to work towards anything. Not just yet. And then at the end of this 2 minutes, we are going to look to meet the pressure between our knees and our elbows. And we're slowly going to bring that up from about 20% power to 40% power, 60% power, judging how hard it is for you. If you feel like your groin are actually going to tear, it's not going to happen. But if you feel like that's going to happen, you're going to quit at that percentage, that intensity, and you're going to try to pull the knees down towards the ground a little bit more. So we're actually trying to climb or bring our legs in towards each other. Our elbows aren't going to let it, but then we're going to fight right back down towards the ground, trying to get the knees a little bit lower. We're going to reset, do it all again, but that's going to be our new passive range of motion there. So we're just over a minute gone. And the reason we're holding for 2 minutes is because 2 minutes is about the time that our body realizes, okay, I'm actually in a stretch. So any of your stretches that we do for less than 2 minutes or 60 seconds or 90 seconds, the body's still like, no, I don't feel a thing. So when it hits the 2 minute mark, that's when it realizes, okay, I'm in a stretch. So that's why we're going to hold for 2 minutes. We got another 20 seconds to go. So in 20 seconds time, we're going to take a big breath in. On the exhale, keeping our abs nice and tight, we're going to start meeting the pressure, building up the pressure. Because if you go ramp up the intensity straight away, well, you're actually going to find that quite painful through the groin. Whereas if you build it up and warm up the body through it, it's going to be a lot easier. So from here, big breath in. Slowly on the exhale, let's bring the knees in. Don't let the elbows, or don't let the knees come in with the elbows at 20%. So you're meeting the pressure between the elbows and the knees, 20% intensity. It's quite easy. We can hold this all day. Let's ramp it up to 40%. So a little bit harder. The elbows are stopping the knees from coming in. Perfect. Let's ramp it up again, 60%. So we're working that little bit harder. So we're over half our intensity of our max. So same again, big breath in. We're going to ramp it up to 80%. So we're working quite hard. Hard, hard, hard. Keep holding at 80. Hard, hard. Hold it, hold it. Now fight the knees back down towards the ground. Fight, fight, fight as low as you can get. And now your elbows are going to push down onto your knees. We're going to hold that new area that we're in. So you know you're going to notice that you're slightly lower than what you were at the start where you should be. And if you're not, that's absolutely fine. We're going to go again. But this time, we're going to hold for 1 minute. I was in the middle of saying 60 seconds and a minute there. Try to join them two together. So still a passive range hold. We're actually putting no pressure down anywhere. We're not trying to lift up anywhere. We're just holding that. We've got another 30 seconds to go. So the first time that you do it, it can be quite confusing. But now that we know what we're doing, we can do it again. A little bit better this time. So you're going to feel quite an intense stretch in your groin here. Your body wants you just to come up out of it because it's getting quite intense. Don't stay in that position. We're going to go for one last time. So big breath in. And exhale. Let's bring the knees in to the elbows. Elbows are going to stop it coming in. Let's go 20%. And you'll notice it's going to be a little bit harder now. Let's ramp it up to 40%. A little bit harder again. 60%. So now we're working quite hard. Big breath in. On the exhale, let's ramp it up to 80%. And we're going to hold that for about 5-6 seconds. So hard, hard, hard. 80%. So not at your max. And then rip away with your knees back down towards the ground. And now your elbows come down to meet that. And that's your new range of motion. That's your new passive hold. So we're just going to hold this for about 30 seconds. And we don't need to hold this as long because we've actually been in this stretch for over 2 minutes. And by the end of it, you're going to be holding this stretch for about 3.5 minutes. So a series like this, which is your pails and rails, it's going to take about 5 minutes for each movement that you do. Now we're just looking at hip external rotation, looking at the groins. That's all we're doing with this one. And then what we're going to do from here is slowly lean back. Keep holding your ankles. You're going to take one hand off the ankle, throw it behind. Same with the other one. And then you're going to bring the knees in together. That's the easiest way to get out of it. And then relax the legs. So you should feel a lot freer to that. And you can even go back into that stretch if you want to again. Just for a second, just to see the difference of what you started with. And you should have a bit more freedom to that, get a little bit lower. And the more times you do this, the better you get at it, the more range of motion you're going to get from it. Actually see here, socks are slowly turning black. They've hit the floor a few times. So that's a new pair of socks. But anyway, just moving around. And what we're going to go into next is called it's our legs 90-90, but we're going to close that gap a little bit. So it's going to turn into a bit of a figure 4 on that front leg. So we know our legs 90-90 where we put our knees to one side and you're here. So from here, what you're going to do is you're going to pull this front leg in right in against that quad or that thigh. So this is our little figure 4 here. This back leg doesn't move. It stays the exact same. What you can do is keep your back hand, put it on the floor. And if you keep that on the floor, that's your support beam. That's your kickstand hand that you can use the whole time to keep your balance. Because not all of us have that range of motion where we can actually stay upright and get rid of our hands. Not everyone has that. You might be leaning back to the side, and that's actually quite difficult. So when you try to go upright, take your hand off, you're going to fall. So use that kickstand hand there as support. You can also use a wall. But what we're going to do from here is actually lean our chest forward over this gap between our knee and our ankle. This is like a little gate working in front. And we're going to hinge, bring our chest over, keep your shoulder blades pinched. But that's now helping us use that momentum and that leverage to push down through our two knees into the ground. So you're lifting your bum off the ground, lifting through or pushing down through the two knees, up to that standing position on that kneeling. So from kneeling to, from our knees up to our shoulders is one straight line from the front. Or if you look from side on, it's a straight line. Even though these are going out in a V, if you look from side on, it's one straight line. All the points are above each other. So our hips are underneath our shoulders, same with our knees. We're going to come back down nice and slow, control it, keep that chest pointing forward, because if you sit back, well, all the weight's behind us. So sitting down, keeping the chest over, and back down fully, and then let's come up again. And we're going to sit down nice and slow. So what you can do, if you do feel any kind of niggles, you can change the angle of that leg of the front. So I'm actually going to open that leg up just a little bit. I can feel it pinching the back of my knees. Sounds like I'm making excuses, but my knees aren't the best either. So that just frees up just a little bit and back down. So you will feel this in your glute of that front leg. That's normal, you will feel it there. Push down through your two knees. You can actually use your two hands to help. Just take some of the weight if you're actually struggling with that, and back down. So now we're looking at the strengthening aspect of our internal and external rotation. So we have our internal leg here. We have our external leg in front that's bent. Right back into us. And when we create that space or that range of motion through all these exercises that we do, we got to fill that space with some strength. Otherwise, if we get into that range of motion and we've no control or no strength over it, well, we're going to get injured. So exercises like these are going to help with the strength aspect. So you come up, slowly bring it back down, and then back up again. So once you get through 10 each side, I'm going to swap it over. That's my 10. You're going to set right back up. Same thing again. That back leg is going to stay the same at 90 degrees. We're going to adjust this front leg and bring this front foot in towards that quad or that thigh. We're leaning that chest forward in between the gap of our ankle and knee, coming up, pushing down through our two knees, up, squeeze the glutes, and we're slowly back down. But remember, you're controlling yourself as you come back down. Don't let it flop. And once we get through these, we're actually going to wrap it up, and that will be the end of our mobility, or Tuesday mobility. So not keeping you too long. Half an hour is more than enough time for mobility. You've actually done more than your daily or your recommend daily minutes. Same again, I'm going to adjust that front leg. So it happens when you have plenty of surgeries. And then we're back down. So the last one. And relax that. So you can bring the legs into little legs, 90-90 there, side to side. And then that's us. So from there, you should be feeling a lot freer from what you started with. The thing with mobility is it's always that slow, real emphasis on the slowness, on the control. We want to be able to control every aspect and every part of that movement throughout it. And yeah, we're just oiling the joints. Pretty much like putting WD-40 into your joints. Anyway, guys, good work, and we'll see you next Tuesday for another one.